Hi, this is Odeean. Today I'm having a look at something a little bit different from the other things on my channel so far, and it's a particularly special and awesome book. So the book is the Star Wars Chronicles by Chronicle Books, made by Deborah and Aeon Inc., published in 1997. So this is the shipper that it comes in, and for a bit of scale, there's a Hasbro version Masterpiece Optimus Prime. You can see it's a very large book indeed. The Star Wars Chronicles is a special book on a few different levels. I mean, firstly, it's presented absolutely beautifully and is something just attractive for you to look at. But on top of that, as a fan, there's a lot of little bits and pieces contained in these chronicles that you just will not see anywhere else. And only recently, with kind of the expansion of the internet, have we come anywhere close to the kind of intricacy which is contained in this piece. But on top of that, it also throws in a kind of historical reference that goes past just being what a fan is. And today, with a lot of computer-generated images in movies and stuff, we don't have so much of a need for this kind of text. But with the older Star Wars movies, this is largely the only way that you're going to be able to access some of this information. So what you're looking at right now is the outer case of the book itself, which is, it can open. It's a book style box, if you know what I mean. It can open like that and reveal the book itself inside. And it's quite heavy. You can see it's got a little magnetic catch here. So putting that piece aside, running down the edge here, we have the silhouette of most of the main characters. Black and white cover here. Now I'm not going to look at every page in this book, partly because it's so thick, but also there would be no doubt some legal issues about showing too much of the inside of a book. But I'm just going to give, you know, a little bit of an idea of what's inside so you can know if this book is for you. But the pages, the leaves themselves are nice and glossy and very, very big. And if you look after it, it does tend to survive. Although too much handling can result in little mold spots growing on the paper, which tend to stick the pages together and can really destroy it. So I'm handling it with bare hands here, but for the longevity of the book, it really is kind of necessary to not touch this with bare fingers. I just didn't have any cotton gloves on hand. So here you can see the Rancor, and it's a real up-close shot of the model that's used in the movie. Other details going on around here, and one of the cool things about this book is that we have these big fold-out sections that are used kind of to give you some scale. So this is the first scale shot. You can see we've got the probe droid here, Darth Vader, and they're all together, so you can get an idea of how they fit universe-wise. Here is another awesome scale shot. If I just pick the camera up a bit, you can see it includes pretty much every main spaceship from the Star Wars universe in the original trilogy shown in scale with each other, so you can get an idea of how big things are. Now obviously this page and this page are not the same, so you'll see down here, this ship here is the same as what we've got up here, so the Rebel transport, giving you some idea how big the bigger Rebel ships and the Star Destroyers are compared to the other things. We get detailed photos of the original suits from the original trilogy. So here we've got Darth Vader, and one of the things that leap out when you really look at the old style suits, which haven't had the kind of PR gloss that more modern things have, is that some of these look a bit cheesy, you know. They look like they're almost handmade. You can see on these photos where the rough edges are and where the sort of unevenness of these costumes was that didn't really show up in the movie because they're only kind of fleeting. But when you see the originals in detail, in hand, you can see that it wasn't as the production value wasn't as high as what we get today. The book also contains detailed photography of almost every alien and monster that was used in the movies, which is really good because you really hardly see these guys on screen. They just pop in and out, and they're normally in dark conditions, so you can get a clear view of them from these pages. And apart from that, we have original concept artworks like these squiggles up here and these paintings here of different characters which may or may not have ended up in the movie. So over here we've got the Hammerhead and, you know, a character section on Greedo. And perhaps the part of the book that I find most fascinating are the shots like this, when you get behind the scenes views of the model makers working on the models used for the movie. And at the time I bought my first copy of this book, back when it was first published in 1997, there was no other way to gain this kind of information. Now these days on the internet we see individuals carrying out projects like this much more frequently, and it's kind of more commonplace. But I still remember my mind was kind of blown at the time that I bought this book, seeing that, and then seeing the potential I could make one of these. Somebody made it, so I could make it. And just that knowledge alone kind of was really empowering for me when I first bought this. This spread here kind of really gets to the crux of why I bought this book a second time more recently. And that's because it's a beautiful reference for the vehicles like the Millennium Falcon. So I wanted to make a 1 meter saucer diameter Millennium Falcon scratch build, and I needed some reference material to make blueprints from, and this book provided me with that. It had so many beautiful pictures of the interior, the exterior, the different models used, even the production process of one of the original models. And it was highly useful, the most useful source of information that I had, even more useful than the internet in a lot of ways, because some of these pictures had never been published anywhere besides this book. The final section of the book, after the original trilogy is covered, gets onto Ewoks movies, and I know some people hate these, but I do have fond memories of this movie in particular from when I was a kid, and it just covers, in general, different bits and pieces, including the spaceship used in that show. So my final thoughts on the Star Wars Chronicles: if you're a fan in any kind of way of Star Wars, and you've got a little bit of money to burn, then this book is probably something that you would really need to own. Now, as I mentioned, I bought this in 1997, and unfortunately my first copy of this got caught in a flood and was totally and utterly destroyed by being submerged in water for about a week. And that was a very sad day, because the original book cost me $250 when it was first published. Now, a number of years went by, and as I said, I wanted reference material, so I sought out a new copy. Now, this copy in my hand here cost me $300. I did buy it locally, but I think that price is pretty indicative of what they go for. So I've noticed there's none of these on eBay, a few of them on Amazon. You can get used copies for ranging $150 to $300, and new copies, it seems, somewhere between, say, $250 and $400, depending on who you buy it off. It's a little bit of a risk to buy a used copy of this book. As I mentioned, some of the pages stick together and can destroy the contents, and that really comes down to how the book has been handled over its life and what the atmospheric conditions were in the room where it was stored. Mold loves this book. No matter how I keep it sealed in a plastic bag and I clean it regularly, but no matter what I do, every time I look at this, there will be new dots of mold growing on the book. It's really something that's hard to avoid. So if it's ever been opened, you can bet there's going to be some kind of mold problem. So I recommend getting a new one if you plan to get one, and not a second-hand one, because you never know what you're going to get. So anyway, that's pretty much my recommendation. If you like Star Wars, you should buy this book, and I don't think it's going to be reprinted, so it's been a long time since it was printed. Probably now's the best time, or it's never going to happen. Anyway, I'm Odeean. This has been the Star Wars Chronicles by Deborah and Aeon Inc. Thanks for watching.